I'm going to go a little left. I'm going to say that I would really like for our educators spend a lot of time with our children during the day. They actually spend more time with our children than we do. Yeah, I had to realize that. But I would like for our educators to be educated on more, facets of mental health because they are our children's safe spaces. The schools, because they, have our kids most of the time, there should be some type of collaborative effort between the schools and the community. And I would just like more training for our educators because I think, they're so quick to diagnose our children and drug our children. And sometimes our children just need a hug. So I would just like that more.
I mean, I had to say something similar just to speak on as you. And I just want to highlight, that for me, I think it's about affirming faith plus therapy. I think as a God-fearing man, openly addressing mental health and suicide, it's important for us all to know that you don't have to choose between your faith and mental health, right? You can navigate both, together. And I just want to highlight that just again and second and echo what she spoke on. It is not faith or mental health. It is not faith or whatever else you may think. It's faith and. So just know that.
Okay, for the sake of time, I'm going to open the rest of the floor for any closing remarks, anything you guys want to leave the people with. And also, thank you guys again for your time. I'm so appreciative of y'all, seriously. But yes, any closing remarks from the panel?
Again, thank you. And to anyone and everyone, I'm a resource. You need to talk, I'm always down to chat it up. Or listen to you if you just need that listening ear. And just don't forget the key takeaways of this event. Don't forget what we're here for. It was not just something thrown together to say we did it. It was something to be of impact to the entire world. Nothing changes if nothing changes. And it's important that we are that change. So thank you, guys.
I would just like to say, just again, remember that you matter. And if everything fails, always remember to pray. Pray is the number one thing that, that will get you through. Have a conversation with God. And just don't be afraid to ask for help. I know pride is a big thing, and it eats me away every day. And every time, I deal with it, I have to just remember, practice what you preach. I'm giving the information to you. I need to take my own advice as well. So just remember, Yeah.
Thank you so much for having us here today. Very necessary conversation on this lovely Saturday afternoon. You got that? I'm going to kill two birds with one stone so that I don't have to talk about Choose You again. See what I did there? So I'm going to leave you guys with this. No matter what, choose you. My organization is, we're basically community-based. We go into the schools. We work with parents. So no matter what, choose you. Know that there are resources out there for you. You're not alone. You don't have to struggle alone. And there are educators who will take the time out to help you if you do have issues with your kids so that you can see the signs.
I'm going to echo that you matter. Your voice matters. What you have to say matters. And Jesus paid for abundant life. He paid for you to be able to experience life, to experience purpose, to experience Him, and to know that there is so much more beyond your present and your past. There's a future. And so if I could leave you with anything, understand that no matter where you are, you're not too deep down, it's not too difficult, that Jesus is not able to reach in and pull you out of it. He loves you more than you love you. He loves you more than anyone else could love you. And so He has a purpose and a plan for your life.
Yeah, you matter, your life matters, and you literally just took the words out of my mouth. Like, God has a plan and a purpose for your life, and I'm just so encouraged being up here and just seeing everyone. Like, this is so beautiful because we all have a different story. We've all experienced just, you know, this topic in just different ways, but just seeing how, like, the Lord, he doesn't waste any part of our story, you know? And so it's like we've been through the hell, we've been through the crushing, we've been through just the darkness, we've been through the wilderness, but it's like we're able to sit here and just be a light and just love on you guys and encourage you guys, even with our life. And yeah, it's like if God did it with us, he can do it with y'all. And you are so loved. There's nothing, like, no matter how deep you feel like you are or how far away from God, there's a scripture that says that nothing can separate you from the love of God. And so it's like you're loved, you matter, and God has a plan and a purpose with your life.
Okay, thank you again, panelists, so much. You guys are amazing. Can we give them another hand, please? Thank you, thank you, thank you. You guys are free. You guys are free. Okay. And so now we have reached the last part of the summit. We have an amazing ending speaker, and so I hope as the audience is ready to interact and respond, because we have a great speaker coming up, Miss Donna Bell. She's going to be doing a small interactive piece with us, speaking on suicide, more specifically talking about it in the Black community. And I'm going to introduce her by reading her bio. Donna Bell is a public health professional with genuine compassion for linking people with the services they need, as well as the education and tools to make lifestyle changes that will improve their social determinants of health and daily lives. An advocate working to reduce health disparities with people from vulnerable populations and who struggle with multiple and deeply layered social issues and/or chronic illness. Donna earned her BS in health counseling at Iona College, New Rochelle, New York, and an MBA from Washington Adventist University in Tacoma Park, Maryland. Donna is currently pursuing a Master's of Public Health and Epidemiology and Bioanalytics at Benedictine University. In September of 2026, her Doctor of Education in Community Health Education at Columbia University Teachers College in New York City. Donna is a Christian who has collaborated with faith-based organizations to further her mission to educate and empower the community in public health for over 25 years. She is a member of the New Rochelle Seventh-day Adventist Church, where her great-grandmother was a founding member. Currently, Donna is the Personal Ministries Director in charge of Community Outreach, Director for Liturgical Decorations, Deaconess, Assistant Youth Leader, and Assistant in the Community of Services Department. Aside from her strong public health and business background, Donna is an avid reader, loves nature, photography, hiking, animals, and arts and crafts in general. Donna believes in the maintenance of aspects of all health, especially mental, physical, and spiritual. Donna is a native New Yorker, born and raised in New Rochelle, New York, is married to Harold Bell, and was blessed with 3 wonderful children, Brianna, Harold Bell, Jr., and Nicholas. Please welcome Miss Donna Bell to the stage.
First of all, I would just like to say thank you for inviting me. And second, that whole panel, including Alex, I want you all to come to New Rochelle and do the very same thing. I think it's very important that communities all over have that panel and are able to come together and talk honestly. And thank you for being so open and so honest. It was amazing, it was beautiful, and God bless you all. So I come to you today from Let's Save Lives. I'm a volunteer with Let's Save Lives, and I teach I can't type at the same time. If I type and talk, I'll be typing what I talk, and it don't work. So I teach the Let's Save Lives for the African American community, as well as Let's Save Lives for teens and the general Let's Save Lives, as well as a volunteer with, I teach another program as well, and it's completely escaped my brain, so forget it. I'll tell you that later. Anyway, Let's Save Lives is an important program. It's an introduction to suicide prevention, and it's all about the conversation. Like I said before, my name is Donna Bella, and I represent the New Jersey chapter of Let's Save Lives. And also, I'm here because I've also had experience with suicide. And it was about 4 or 5 people, 1 in college, and 3 in church, and 1 a family member. None of them were successful because it was in a prevention mode. They actually reached out. Thank goodness. 1 was quiet, and I actually just asked the question, are you thinking about suicide? And that ended up also being in a prevention mode, which prevented it from happening. So just having a conversation is powerful. So let's talk about it. Next slide. So the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention's Let's Save Lives is an educational presentation and is intended for informational purposes only. This presentation is not a substitute for professional medical advice or services. You should not use the information in this presentation for diagnosing or treating a health condition. You should consult a physician or other healthcare professional in all matters relating to your health, and particularly for any symptoms that may require diagnosis or medical attention. Any action on your part in response to the information provided in this presentation today is at your discretion. The American Foundation for Suicide Prevention makes no representations or warranties with respect to any information offered or provided regarding treatment, action, or application of medication. So what is the purpose of the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention? We're here to save lives and bring hope to those affected by suicide, and we do it by engaging in these 4 or 5 core strategies: research, education, advocacy, outreach, support, and public awareness. Next slide. And our learning objectives today, you will be able to understand the scope of suicide, the racial and systemic factors that impact suicide, describe suicide risk and protective factors for all of those for the Black and African American communities, describe warning signs of suicide, learn how to get help for someone in a suicidal or mental health crisis, and gain confidence in talking to someone about suicide. Next slide. So what are some factors impacting mental wellness in the Black community? We mentioned them before. One of the largest one is stigma and fear and shame, barriers to access for mental and physical health care, racism and racial trauma, unequal access to mental and physical health care, cultural incompetence or racial and cultural bias of clinical professionals. How many of us in this room have experienced any of those or all of those? Exactly. I have experienced all of them. All of them. Black and African American individuals experience life in a very different way from everybody else. And this can be stated for all individuals who identify as being a part of a minoritized group. We are identified as part of a minoritized group, but we are not the minority. We are the majority in the world. Remember that. People of color are the majority in the world. It's just that in America, we are a part of a minoritized group. Stigma surrounding mental health and suicide in the Black community is very relevant and very real and impacts how Black individuals across all ages understand these specific topics. So not only do we have stigma present, but we also have mistrust of medical professionals and mental health professionals. Next slide. What are some of the things that you may have heard growing up in the Black community? Throw it out there. Other than what you see up there, what else? What else have you heard in the Black community? Gotta be strong. What else? You're being... Oh, you'll never be nothing. Wow, yes. What else? You're too sensitive. Yes, that's one of the statements that we started saying in church. You're too sensitive. Black people must be resilient. Having mental health problems means you're weak. Depression is a white problem. Black people don't go to therapy, do we? No, we don't go to therapy because we don't want to be considered what? Crazy, yes. I experienced similar struggles, so you should be able to handle it. Buck up, right? Be strong. If you want to get better, you can find a way on your own. Pray it away. How many of us have been told, oh, don't talk about it, because if you talk about it, the devil's going to hear. Just pray about it. Yes, just pray about it. Not that prayer is not powerful. Prayer is powerful. But God gave us to each other for a purpose and a reason. The cross isn't just up and down, is it? It's straight across, too. And that's us together. What are some other things that we may have heard about mental health growing up in the Black community? One more. Anybody have anything different? You're too young to be depressed. You're too young to be depressed. Yes, exactly. I love that. Next slide. Yet still I rise. Black cultural strength, resistance, and resilience. Excuse me. The strength of previous generations gives Black people strength to face the oppression of today. Black communities have led social movements to fight injustice and systemic racism. Traditions of alternative health practices have helped communities with limited access to medical care. The core value of being stronger together can help individuals who experience mental health concerns. They just all mentioned that. We're all stronger because of their togetherness. We had that togetherness back in this room earlier before we came out, and it was amazing, and I loved it. These young people, they need to be applauded again because that was awesome what they did. Traditional health values, beliefs, and practices have aided in survival of Black people through hundreds of years of oppression, slavery, and colonial rule. Next slide. What are some things to consider when talking about suicide? How about a change in a word or a phrase? How can that make a difference? Normally, we hear of suicide as attempted suicide, committed suicide, right? But if we change those words to died by suicide or ended their life by suicide, suicide attempt or death by suicide instead, because how we talk about suicide matters. When talking about someone who died, we avoid using the phrase committed because we don't want to suggest that suicide is a crime. We encourage the phrases died by suicide or ended their life. We avoid referring to suicide attempts as failed or successful. These words imply judgment, and we don't want people to associate failure or success with suicide. Instead, we want to encourage the use of phrases such as suicide attempt or death by suicide. Next slide. As we mentioned before, suicide is one of the leading causes of death. It is number 11. We don't want it to be number 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We want it to stay at 11 or go higher. Higher. We prefer for it to go higher. The U.S. Suicide is one of the leading causes of death, impacting families and individuals and communities. The CDC mentions that 48,183 people died by suicide in 2021. That was Talk Saves Lives' most available data. We heard some more current data from the doctor who spoke to us earlier. So in 2021, which is the most recent data we have, suicide was the 15th leading cause of death for all African American Black individuals of all ages. But for youth 10 to 19, it was the 3rd leading cause of death. 10 to 19 in the African American community, the 3rd leading cause of death. We have a lot of work to do with our youth. We have to stop to listen to them. I was asking that question to our young people who were in the back room. What can my generation do to listen more to you, to see you, to recognize you, to hear you? Because those things are very important to them. Next slide. Suicide in the Black community. From 2011 to 2020, the age group with the highest amount of suicide rate in the Black community was 25 to 34. They're just starting out. 25 to 34. The suicide rate for Black men is 4.5 times higher than that for Black women. We're losing our men. And suicide is one of the leading causes of death for Black females and males aged 20 to 24. Next slide. Suicide in Black youth. Black students were more likely than Asian, Hispanic, and white students to attempt suicide. And that's not something that we thought, right? No, we didn't think about that. One of the reasons, can anybody tell me one reason why, or give me a couple of reasons why we didn't know that to be true? There's one big one, but give me some answers. What do you think of some of the reasons why we didn't know that to be true in our community? There you go. You don't hear about suicide in our community on television, ever. As a matter of fact, we don't hear about suicide in our churches and in our community, and even on TV, when someone prominent or somebody in the movies, a movie star dies, you never hear about how they died. You would have to do the research yourself to find out, well, what happened? And then sometimes you won't even find it there. So that's not even really discussed, and it's even less discussed in our community. More than 1 in 10 Black youth attempted suicide in the past year. Nearly 2 in 10 made a suicide plan. And nearly 4 in 10 said they felt hopeless. Next slide. So what contributes to suicidal behavior? There's no one single cause, but rather multiple causes. Suicide often occurs when multiple risk factors come together. For example, stressful experiences or losses can increase suicide risk when they occur on top of the other. And other factors, such as biological, psychological, and genetic. Early childhood experiences and experiences related to discrimination. Those things are real in the African American community. And when someone is in a suicidal crisis, they have limited access to usual coping. They are not in the same, how should you say, comfortable, quiet mind to really come up with a solution of how to get out of that pain or that thought process. By talking about it or a situation or to them, it can help people understand the reason why they can't think of another way to stop the pain or how to make it difficult to have a conversation or to do what they usually do to cope. You're not thinking about what you usually do to cope. You only want the pain to go away. Most people are conflicted or ambivalent about wanting to die. Most people, part of them wants to live and part of them wants to die. The part that wants to die is the part that wants to stop the pain. They may think that if they weren't around, it would be better for family and friends. They may feel like a burden, and they may have a hard time seeing how they contribute to their community. Next slide. So from the perspective of a person with suicidal thoughts, one, they may experience a crisis point, often an event or several events. They may experience a crisis point, often an event or several events together. Two, it may be unbearable physical or emotional pain that feels inescapable. Or three, unable to think clearly. Thoughts of suicide are often temporary. Keeping people safe and helping them feel supported can get them through those critical moments. The pain they are experiencing, either physical or emotional, it feels unbearable and they want relief. The combination of stress and overwhelming pain may make it difficult for them to think clearly and have a hard time seeing their situation from the bigger picture or from the outsider's presentation. Understanding the perspective of the person with thoughts of suicide has also helped us to learn that these feelings are often temporary. And that's an opportunity to jump in and have a conversation and to let the person, most of all, talk. Next slide. So there are some risk and protective factors. I didn't tell you in the beginning, I work at RWJ Barnabas in New Jersey for the South Ward of Newark. In Newark, there's 5 different wards, and the South Ward is predominantly African American. And there I work with risk and protective factors with the community to reduce alcohol and substance use and violence within the youth of the South Ward with the community in collaboration with community-based organizations, hospitals, and other centers so that the youth in the South Ward can feel safe and feel like there's hope for them. So with not substance use, you hear me? With suicide prevention, you also have risk and protective factors, biological factors, psychological factors, and environmental and social factors. But all of that coupled with life events and things that happen to us every day in life, if you have the lethal means, it can equal suicide. Next slide. Biological factors. What are some other biological factors? We have serious or chronic health conditions. What are some serious or chronic health conditions that someone might have that may make them feel like they can't take it? Cancer. Yes. What else? HIV. Yes. Name some more. Lack of movement, paralyzed, can't move, yes. Arthritis, maybe. Arthritis is very painful, rheumatoid arthritis. Those are some chronic health conditions, chronic pain, a serious head injury, those as well. What are some psychological factors? We have clinical depression, bipolar disorder, depressed or mixed episodes, psychosis, substance misuse, borderline personality disorder, eating disorders. Psychological factors, they include all of those, and the most frequent mental health conditions that elevate suicide risk. And anxiety also accompanies these. Next slide. So, 1 in 4 people experience a mental health condition, and most do not go on to die by suicide. So how many people do we have in this room? 1, 2, 3, 4. Approximately every 8 person right here in this room will experience a mental health condition. But I go on to say that the majority of us are experiencing some kind of mental health condition at this time and challenges because of some of the things that are just going on in this country. Just watching the news can cause you to have a mental health challenge. You have to shut it off. Dr. Weil, there's this gentleman in the Midwest called Dr. Weil, and he's Andrew Weil, wonderful books he wrote. And it's all about health and wellness. And I remember in one of his books, he wrote that in order to stay healthy mentally, we should not watch the news every single day. He said, try not to watch the news. It doesn't matter. You know why? You're not missing anything, because when you go to work, somebody is going to point it out to you. Either that, or because of your cell phones, it's going to pop up on your cell phone, correct? If you have the New York Times or any newspaper and it's popping up on your cell phone, you see what's going to happen. So you really don't need to watch the news. You really don't. Stay away from it for a while. See if you can only watch it once a week. I don't even watch it once a week. I don't, and I don't miss a thing. Not one thing. But if you want to stay informed, turn it on, see what's going on, but try to stay away from it, because it does affect your mental health and how you view yourself and how the world is changing around you. In combination with having a mental health condition, the presence of potential contributors and life stressors that make someone consider taking their life are there. In other words, if you or a loved one is diagnosed with and/or getting treatment for a mental health condition, this does not mean they are certain to attempt or die by suicide. Does not mean that. A mental health diagnosis does not mean that someone is going to take their life or die by suicide. Next. Mental health and physical health play an important role on the path to suicidal risk. How many of us really understand that our mental health affects our physical health and our physical health affects our mental health? They are directly related to one another. So, what types of concerns do we see in the community as far as our physical health? What types of diseases do we see in the community that we hear about often, especially in our communities of color? Hypertension, diabetes, obesity, cancer. Now, what types of mental health conditions come to mind that you hear about in the community? Anxiety, depression, bipolar. I hear that word bipolar all the time. Don't we make fun of that word? Whenever somebody is feeling up one day and down the next, don't we make fun of that and say, oh, you are acting bipolar? Is that appropriate? Not at all. We are not, unless you are a mental health clinician, and even if you are a mental health clinician, that's not appropriate. Not at all, because they're not your patient, They have not come to you. They have not gone through the necessary tests to know whether or not they have a mental health disorder. So for us to call each other those names is not appropriate at all. Next slide. Some social and environmental factors: access to lethal means, exposure to and contagion, and stressful life event. Environmental factors refer to the circumstances of a person's life or the aspect of a person's environment that can contribute to the overall level of risk. Access to lethal means, or having a way to kill themselves, is an environmental factor that contributes to someone's level of risk of suicide. And suicide contagion, the exposure to another person's suicide or to graphic or sensationalized stories of suicide, particularly for individuals who have other suicide risk factors such as depression or past trauma, can be an issue. And I believe that's the reason why they don't put it on the news, because the possibility of copycats, contagion. Stressful life events: death of a loved one, loss of a job, divorce, separation, unsuspected illness or injury. While environmental factors do not lead to suicide on their own, when an individual has other health or historical risk factors, these environmental stressors can contribute to an escalated risk of suicide. Some social and environmental factors: systemic and structural racism. There was a time when, I'd say maybe 15 to 20 years ago, if you went to work and you started to talk about your experiences with racism, they would say, "No, that's not so. Things are better. Things are better now. Don't you see we have a black president? Don't you see that in this hospital, the CEO is a black man? Don't you see that the director of medicine is a black woman? No, things are better now. Racism really doesn't exist." But then the Pandora's box was open, and we realized that America still has a problem with systemic and structural racism, and we have to address those. Limited access to resources, financial distress, cultural stressors such as oppression, discomfort with mental health, alternative self-harm behaviors that may lead to a lethal outcome. One alternative self-harm might be cutting. Another might be just deciding not to eat. Another might be deciding not to take your medication that you need to take every day to keep you alive. Alternative self-harm behavior. Next slide. Historical factors: family history of suicide, family history of mental health conditions, trauma, childhood abuse, previous suicide attempts, loss, adverse childhood experiences. Family history of suicide: we just finished a class in Newark with a group of young people, and 2 of the youth in that group, under 18 years old, told us that, I know all about suicide. I have family members that tried to commit suicide, die by suicide. I have family members that succeeded. And I have family members that have mental health issues. But she was just like, yes, I know all about it. I was like, wow, okay. Then you're going to have a lot to discuss here. And she goes, yes, I'll talk about it. I was like, wow, fantastic. And she did. She was very open about it, which caused the other young people in the class to talk about it as well. And then towards the end of the class, a gentleman raised his hand and said, well, I would just like to say that I attempted suicide. I've been trying it ever since I was, 10 years old? I said, oh. And he continued to talk openly about it. But it gave them the opportunity, or that class gave them the opportunity to share and to continue to talk about it while we listened and not gave advice, but but to help them to understand we're here. And your teachers are here, your principal is here, everybody's here, and they care about you. So whenever you need something, just let us know. One young lady sat in the front of the class, said nothing. I looked at her, crying uncontrollably, quietly. I said, I've never seen anyone cry like that, quietly. How many people are crying quietly with a mask on and we don't know it because there's no one to talk to about how they feel? That's what Let's Talk is about. That's what Talk Saves Lives is about. It's about being that ambassador in your group, in your community, in your church, to be able to say, how are you? How are you? And stop and wait to see how that person responds. Not just walk away, listen and wait and see what they have to say. Recent research has shown that adverse childhood experiences, or ACEs, are events in childhood that can contribute to suicidal risk. And these events that can increase the likelihood of difficulties later on in life. Next slide. It's unfortunate. Oh, I don't want to say it's unfortunate. When we become mothers, how many of us are mothers? Did we get a manual? Heavens, no. But we did bring with us a baby bag full of experiences that we had growing up. I don't want to say a suitcase because counselors will tell you when you get married, you bring your suitcase with you. But when you have a baby, you bring your baby bag of stuff, the childhood experiences that you had, the experiences that you had with your parents growing up. Some of them are right, some of them are beautiful, and some of them aren't, because this is what we learned. Adverse childhood experiences occur during childhood as a result of extremely stressful, frequent, or prolonged body stress response. Some of these adverse childhood experiences are violence, abuse, neglect, witnessing violence in your home, in your church, or in your community, having a family member attempt or die by suicide. They can also include aspects of the child's environment that can undermine their sense of safety, stability, and bonding, such as growing up in a household with substance use problems, mental health problems, and the inability due to parental separation or household members. Instability due to parental separation or household members being in jail or incarcerated. Next slide. So ACEs in the Black community. People of different races and ethnicities do not experience ACEs equally. I can say that because as a CTC manager in the South Ward of Newark, where it's predominantly African American, we have CTC managers that are also in the southern part of New Jersey. And those CTC managers have attested that they do not experience what we experience in our African American communities. So their ACEs look a little bit different from ours. Some of them are the same, but they look different from those from different races and ethnicities. 3 in 5 Black children experience at least one ACE, adverse childhood experience, putting them most at risk out of any other group. And life consequences, people who experience ACEs are 50% more likely to develop alcohol use problems and 67% more likely to die by suicide. Across all races and ethnicities, economic hardship and divorce or separation of a parent are the most common for ACEs, adverse childhood experiences. and parental incarceration is the next most common. Next slide. ACE's impact can lead to lifelong negative outcomes. Educational opportunities can be hampered. Chronic diseases can develop because what? The mind is attached to the body, and the body is attached to the mind. Whatever happens in the mind will happen in the body. It's all connected. Chronic disease, mental health, toxic stress affects brain structure and brain chemistry. Toxic stress from ACEs can change brain development and affect how the body responds to stress. ACEs are linked to chronic health problems, mental health conditions, and substance misuse in adulthood. Next slide. So what are some protective factors? We talked about the negative factors, the risk factors. What are some protective factors? I think there was a slide in the very beginning that talked about family and community support and ancestors, right? Yes, knowledge of what our ancestors did in the past and how it helped them and how those stories get passed down, correct? I have a question. Are those stories still being passed down? No. Why? Give me one reason. We don't talk. And why don't we talk? Too busy. Cell phones, electronics. So the stories are not getting passed down anymore. The strength that we used to have, knowing these stories of grandma this, grandpa this, uncle this, aunt this, they're not being passed down anymore. We're so busy that we don't have the time to stop and talk. Things are becoming so expensive that our priority is money. And it's not that we want that. How many of us in this room want that? No. We want to be able to have that community in our own families and in our churches and in the community, but we're busy. So things have changed. So those conversations aren't happening anymore, but then we need to go back to them. We need to take the time to carve out and have family time together, have family meetings together, have worship together in the morning or in the evening. Praise God together. Give thanks together for what you do have. Sometimes maybe your kids don't even know what they should be thankful for. They don't know what happened with mommy and daddy at work, where they can sit back and say, thank you, God, for protecting my mother and father while they were at work and still keeping their jobs. Have worship together. Talk. Give thanks. Peers, community, cultural and religious beliefs, our spirituality. Very important. And those things are getting lost in our events every day, in the things that we have to do versus what we need to do to stay connected. You see, in Africa, we're connected. We were connected, actually, even more so in Africa before colonialization. You know? But now, you go to Africa, they are still connected. We've been there, we've seen it, and it's a beautiful thing. And they also want us to be a part of that too. But in America, it's a different story. We're fighting against each other. We're grabbing at straws against each other because there's so little for us to have together that we have to fight each other for the little crumb. But if we realize that that crumb can be broken down into smaller crumbs and we can still survive, we'll be better off as a group of people and we'll have that community again. Strong racial identity. I want to ask you, are you proud of who you are? Are you proud of your melanin? Are you proud of how dark you are? Amen. Amen. That is one thing that is being attacked. If you go into some stores You will find some potions or lotions to lighten your skin. Don't do it. You're already beautiful. We're already beautiful. Don't do it. It just messes up your complexion and everything else and makes you look twice as old. Who did it? Sosa. Sammy Sosa. Do you know what he looks like now? Remember when he had his melanin, how handsome he was? Everybody wanted that man. Can you imagine if Idris Elba went out there and bought some of that stuff and put that on his face, what he would look like? Be proud of your racial identity. Hair. Be proud of your curl. It's beautiful. Mental health care as well. Protective factors. Next slide. Spirituality, religion, and faith can play roles in supporting mental health. They're very important. Our churches are extremely important. Our churches need to be safe havens. I remember they mentioned that up here, how we need to be able to have safe havens here in the church. Although we consider the church a place where people go because it's a hospital. We've all heard that statement, right? We're all in need of healing mentally and physically. But we still need to remember to be safe with each other and remember there's somebody else come walking through those doors who needs Jesus too and who needs healing mentally and physically. And watch what you say. Watch what you say, because you don't know where someone is in their walk in life. Spirituality can look different for each person. Religion has a prominent role in the Black culture and can be a protective factor and less stigmatized way to seek help, prayerfully less stigmatized. Many Black folk are more receptive and more likely to seek help from religious leaders or healers who are trusted in the community. Next slide. Mental health care is an important ingredient for preventing suicide. So because it's so important, we're going to focus on this topic for a few minutes. Getting effective treatment for mental health conditions like depression and anxiety can prevent suicide. So members of the community may be uncomfortable with seeking mental health care for various reasons, including stigma, including being called crazy. What is another reason why they may be uncomfortable for seeking out mental health care? Lack of insurance, yes. And even if you do have insurance, some mental health providers don't take insurance, and you're left with a bill between $100 and $175, maybe $200 each time, correct? So finances as well, yes. Lack of transportation, excellent, yes, most definitely. Anyone else? Next slide. But what are some benefits of counseling? Seeking help for mental health can have many, many, many benefits. We can see here, less anxiety, greater self-confidence, better relationships, regaining emotional balance, increased assertiveness, stress relief, ability to set boundaries, trauma resolution, the ability to cry freely. That alone is stress relieving. How many of us, after a stressful situation and you cried it out, felt better? Crying is good for you. Do it. Let it flow. Let it go. And if you're a religious person, praise God at the same time. Ask for God's help. You know, crying is okay. Sometimes there may be somebody out there that might need your shoulder to cry on. That's why when you ask the question, and I'm going to say this throughout this program, when you ask the question, how are you? Remember, you're saying to the person, I see you, and I want to know how you are feeling. Remember that. Next slide. Find a culturally competent therapist. I'd like to say find a culturally competent doctor. Everybody, make them culturally competent as much as you can. Now, if it happens to be someone who is Caucasian, that's okay, as long as they're culturally competent. I had a wonderful MD who was culturally competent. She retired. Now I'm kind of looking again. So consider your needs and preferences. Gather referrals. Go to local Black community or health centers, places of worship in religious communities, primary care providers, dentists, friends, people you hang out with. Who's your doctor? I need a doctor. Talk to them. For me, I had some issues going to doctors, and I really didn't think about the fact that they were Caucasian. I just went to them because they were a doctor, and I chose them to go. Didn't think about that at all. But I did have some issues, some racial issues, and they didn't treat me right. They gave me a half examination, and this was an OBGYN. So ladies, I think we have 2 breasts, right? Well, I got 1 breast checked, and then was told that I didn't need to be checked anywhere else. I was like, so you don't want to touch me? So from that moment on, I decided if I look for a doctor, I'm going to ask. Since I've had that experience where it was bold racism, I'm going to be bold and say, are you African American? And that's what I did to find my next layer of doctors. And the one doctor that I had that did retire, she said to me, no, I'm not, but I care for everyone in the community. Give me a try. And she was awesome. It can be helpful to think about finding a therapist that works like a dating relationship. Sometimes it's the right match and sometimes it's not. It's in your power to get rid of them. You pay them. You have the power. Your insurance pays them. Next slide. So, like I said, all of these ideas, Black community centers, health centers, places of worship, religious communities, friends, your social groups, and primary care providers. Next slide. So some questions that might be helpful to ask include, well, what's your identity? How do you identify yourself? It's okay to ask. We live in America. Remember, racism is bold here. It's okay to ask. You have that right and you have that power. Don't be afraid. What experience do you have working with people in the Black and African American community? Another great question. Do you have any specific training or life experience that relates to working with Black and African American clients? Or have you been trained in anti-racist practices in mental health care? I hope they'll be honest. Next slide. Finding a Black therapist. I would like for you to take a picture of this and keep this in your phone, because these are some resources for a Black therapist. Can everybody see it? Next slide. Making mental health a priority can be difficult. Why? Limited access to culturally authentic services, limited access to preventative medical services, mistrust of medical professionals, and concerns about medicalizing depression. Next slide. So what are some suicide warning signs? They're the way a person talks, the way a person behaves, and the person's mood. And we're going to discuss each one separately. The way they talk. They might talk about ending their lives. But we got to remember each person is different. While some people may make their intentions known and clear, like saying they have no reason to die, or saying that they feel trapped, or saying that they are a burden to others in the world, other people may keep their thoughts completely hidden, and you won't know. In such case, their comments and behaviors may be subtle and go unnoticed. For example, a person might joke about it or only hint at their despair. No matter how a person talks about suicide, it's important to take it seriously. Follow your instincts, especially if they are displaying other warning signs for suicide. Having no reason to live, being a burden to others, feeling trapped, unbearable pain, and saying things like, I wish I wasn't here. Or maybe even, why was I born? Next slide. Behavior. Increased use of alcohol and drugs. Issues with sleep. Acting recklessly. Give me some ideas of how somebody can act recklessly. Throw it out there. Any ideas? How can a person act recklessly? How about driving crazy? Suddenly you're just driving really reckless and it's not normal. How about not taking their medicine? That's reckless behavior. Any ideas of how someone can act recklessly? Not taking care of themselves. What was that? Financial? Yes. Not being responsible financially, right? Yes. Yes. And that could look like spending too much or a gambling problem, correct? Yes. Yes. Withdrawing from activities, isolating from family and friends, looking for a way to kill themselves, giving away possessions. That's one that we've all known, right? Giving away possessions. And we're not talking about small possessions. We're talking about things that cost money, like ladies giving away a pair of Louis Vuittons, right? That fit. Or a beautiful Louis Vuitton bag that you know costs $1,500 and you're just giving that away. Abrupt changes in behavior. What about someone acting extremely happy all of a sudden? Could that be a sign? Yes. Especially if they're really not that kind of person and you notice that change, or someone who's normally very happy and they suddenly get very withdrawn and sad. Trust your instincts. Mood, depression, apathy, rage, irritability, impulsivity, humiliation, anxiety, sudden unexplained happiness. We spoke of that. So what can you do? Oh, next. Sorry, I'm not paying attention to the big slide. What can we do? How can we use Let's Save Lives? Next slide. We can listen. We can listen with active listening and unconditional listening. Listen to their story and ask directly about suicidal thoughts. If you ask someone if they're thinking about suicide, is that going to make them do the act? No. It's been proven that it's just the opposite, that most people actually want to talk about it. And listening. God gave us how many ears? How many mouths? That means we have to listen twice as much as we speak, and I know we've all heard that before. But listen actively. Don't listen to respond. We've all been there before in a conversation, and you don't want to forget what you have to say. So you're waiting for the other person to stop so that you can inject what you have to say. I know I'm guilty, Harold, right? I'm very guilty. I'm saying that to my husband. He tells me that all the time. Just listen. But it's true. Just listen to them. You will have your opportunity to talk. Empathy. Express concern and connect on a shared experience. Empathize with them. Trust your instincts. Always trust your instincts and ask the question. Support. Encourage them to seek help and provide resources. How about advice? Keep it to yourself. Unless you're asked, unless you're serious, and unless you're really that close, and they ask you. But even if they ask you, try not to be too specific on how you would do something. Try and keep it, I don't know, I don't want to call it superficial, but just try not to interject too much of yourself. Because you're not them and they're not you, and you're not in their situation. So support with the least amount of advice. Very good question. Do you go tell someone? I actually had that situation in college. And the answer is, if you know that the person is seriously thinking about suicide, and from your conversation, and you've asked the person if they'd like to see a mental health provider, and even said to them, I'll go with you. If it still seems like this person is in trouble, then yes, you have to tell someone. In college, she wasn't my roommate, but she told me that she wanted to kill herself because she felt like her mother and her family didn't love her because she was the only girl. And she actually gave me a way she was going to do it. She had the actual lethal means. And I didn't go through any counseling. But I knew in my heart, if you're telling me that you have the lethal means, I've got to tell the dean. And I did. And that young lady did not speak to me for 10 years. But today she's working in the United States government with a master's degree, and she's an assistant to one of the, she's not a senator. What's the other guy? Yes. Congresswoman. She's an assistant to a congresswoman in Washington, D.C. She came to my wedding and she told me thank you. So sometimes you may end up with a situation where you might lose a friend, but they're not losing their life. So yes, there are situations where you do need to say something. If you know that old saying, see something, say something? Hear something, see something, say something. Definitely. And let them know. Next slide. Yeah, that one. Let them know that if by chance you happen to tell me something that's out of my hands, I'm going to have to say something to someone, a mental health professional, for you. And I will go to the emergency room with you if necessary. So reaching out with Let's. So before covering the steps on what to do, here's some reminders about what to avoid. Avoid minimizing or invalidating their feelings. Avoid trying to convince them that life is worth living. If a person is nearing a crisis point or a mental health challenge, they're not thinking clearly. And any debates about life being worth living tend not to be helpful, and they may not even hear you. It's going to be one of those blah, blah, blah. They're not even going to hear you. Offering advice on how to fix it is also, like we mentioned before, another issue. If a person is having a heart attack, are you going to talk to them about how they need to eat healthier? No. Well, a mental health challenge is basically the same. You stop and listen to them. Here are some helpful points. Talk to the person in private. Find a space where it's just the two of you to be able to talk. Listen to their story. Express concern and care. Ask directly about suicidal thoughts. Don't cover it up. Don't chocolate coat it. Don't sugar coat it. Ask directly. Are you thinking about suicide? It's not going to make them do it. They're going to admit it if they are. Encourage them to seek help. Go with them if necessary. And most of all, stay calm. This can be a very stressful situation for you. Stay calm. Next slide. How to reach out. By listening. Ask about mental health, physical health, and suicide. All of that matters. And examples of conversation starters. You don't seem like yourself. Is everything okay? Anybody else have an example of a conversation starter? How are you? We already discussed that. How are you? Is everything all right? There's someone in my church who comes from England, and she doesn't say, how are you? She says, are you all right? And then I thought, as an American, that something was wrong with me, that she was seeing something wrong with me. And then later on, I went to her and I said, why are you asking me if I'm all right? Is there some gossip going around about me? And she goes, no, I'm sorry. That's just what we say in England. We just walk around and say, are you all right? It means, how are you? Hi. Cultural difference, but the same meaning. What are some ways that you might reach out to someone? Call. How about a text? How about one of those GIFs? Is that how you pronounce it? GIF. Oh, I knew it was something else. GIF. What else? Anyway, how would you reach out to someone? Just how would you, if you saw someone that didn't look like themselves, or if you heard that they went through something recently, death of a parent, death of a child, death of a best friend, what would you say? Go visit them. Yes. What would you say to them when you get there? Hi, how are you? Is everything going all right? Is there anything I can do for you? Reach out. Next slide. Listening. Listening can be difficult, you know. It's not always that easy. Ask the question, then listen. Remember? Are you all right? How are you? Ask the question, then stop to listen. And look at their body language. Look to see if they're searching for an answer. Look at their eyes. Look at their facial expression. Pay attention to them. Unless you're one of those people that's just asking those questions. Hi, how are you? But we're going to change that today. We're no longer going to just say, hi, how are you, and then walk away. We're going to stop for a moment, see the response, and ask if they're experiencing any stressors or any concerns if you see that there's something a little bit off, or maybe if you heard. Ask about a main stressor you're aware of or that they have shared with you previously. Ask how the stressor is impacting them. Ask if they've thought of ending their life. You'd be surprised how many people have thought about it. Next slide. How to reach out with empathy and support and love and patience. All those things that God is. No judgment. Listening non-judgmentally. Yes. All those things that God is, you are standing at that moment as a representative. You are standing there listening as if God is listening too. And then sometimes, even while they're talking, maybe you could just say a quick prayer and say, Lord, help me. In your mind, help me to know what to say in response. Help me to stay calm. Express care and compassion for what you see, the warning signs, or hear. Offer support, resources, and way you can help. Go with them to the doctor. Go with them to the emergency room. Next slide. This is a hard one, no doubt about it. Making the home safer. If you are concerned that someone you know is thinking of suicide, you can help by making their environment safer. Remove scarves, belts, cords from easy access. Lock up knives and medications. Secure firearms. Temporarily remove from the home. Lock in a safe with ammunition locked away and stored separately. There's no doubt about it. That's hard. I don't like looking at guns. I don't like touching a gun. I don't like seeing a gun. But honestly, if I was in that situation, I would have to ask them, can I remove the gun and take it? It's a very uncomfortable position to be in. There's no doubt about it, but it is possible. Because in doing this, you might be saving the life of your loved one after you leave them, after you leave their presence, if they decide not to contact anyone. Next slide. If you think they might make an attempt soon, stay with them. Help them secure or remove lethal means. Escort them to mental health services and call mobile crisis or local mental health services. We're going to talk about mobile crisis a little bit. We're almost done. Next slide. We acknowledge that there is an increased risk of death for Black people experiencing a mental health crisis when 911 is called. If it's an emergency, a medical emergency, such as a suicide attempt in progress, call 911. While 911 can be life-saving, it's not the best or the safest choice if you don't want the police to respond. We understand that this is an extremely difficult situation to be in, so learning about hotlines, available crisis care, and other safe options is key. Alternatives to 911 include Mobile Crisis Response Team. This service provides same-day intervention to people experiencing mental health crisis in the community. Calls are responded to on-site, at home, work, school, etc., by licensed mental health professionals with the goal of preventing a crisis from becoming an emergency and referring the client to mental health resources. If nothing else, research the practices at your local emergency rooms and urgent cares. And we have to acknowledge the fact that there is an increased risk of death for people of color experiencing mental health crises when 911 is involved. We've heard about it over and over and over again. When calling 911, provide as much detail about the nature of the situation as possible. Even though you may convey a lot of information to the dispatcher, it may not get passed on to the police officer. So be prepared to re-explain everything without assuming that they have the information already. If they have the information, they'll say to you, we already have the information. But if they don't, just make sure that they understand the whole situation. If you're in the home with them, make sure that you tell them, I'm in the home with them. Other people are here in the home too. Next slide. Here's another slide for you to take a picture of. The 988 Suicide and Crisis Line, the Crisis Text Line, the Trevor Project for LGBTQ youth, LGBTQ youth, Trans Lifeline as well. When calling 988, callers first hear a greeting message while their call is routed to the local Lifeline Network Crisis Center based on the caller's area code. A trained crisis counselor answers the phone, listens to the caller, understands how the problem is affecting them, provides support, and shares resources if needed. If the local crisis center is unable to take the caller is automatically routed to a national backup crisis center. The Lifeline provides live crisis center phone services in English and Spanish and uses language line solutions to provide translation services in over 250 languages for people who call 988. When texting the crisis text line, texters can start with the opening message of talk for English and Ayuda, A-Y-U-D-A, for Spanish. Texters are greeted with 2 friendly automated responses, and it usually takes less than 5 minutes to connect them with a crisis counselor. It may take longer during high traffic times, though. So when the texter has reached a trained volunteer crisis counselor, the crisis counselor will introduce themselves, reflect on what was shared, and invite them to share at their own pace. The goal of any conversation is to get the texter to a calm, safe place. Sometimes that means providing them with a referral to further help, and sometimes it just means being there and listening. A conversation usually lasts anywhere from 15 to 45 minutes. Next slide. We are at the end of our program. So if you could use your phones and take a picture of this code, it will help us to improve our programs every time we go into communities and speak. But next slide. I want to reiterate the importance of listening, of seeing, of being there, of understanding that most often people just need someone to hear them, someone to stop and say, I'm here, let's talk. Because people do feel alone. Yes, I see you. Being seen and heard is so important. There are some people who walk this life and they don't believe there's anybody there that sees them or hears them, even in church. No matter where we are. Doctors sometimes don't see you or hear you. You've got to push them. So I implore you to remember that when you stop and say, hi, how are you? Stop, pay attention to the person, see them, and listen with 2 ears, and talk with empathy, kindness, love, and remember, you are standing in the presence of Jesus himself, helping one of his children. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you guys for staying with us through the whole event. Miss Donna was our closing speaker, so if we can just give her another round of applause. I hope all of us were able to take something from, whether it be from the opening speaker, the panelists, or the closing speaker. I pray that we were able to take something from that we can use in future events. If you look to your left and your right, there are different resources, tables still here, open to be spoken to. There's counseling tables. There's the Mercer Resource Net. Choose You is here. Dr. Heath was the one up here speaking, gave us our comic relief, as well as American Foundation for Suicide. So get pamphlets, get information, stay connected, so that we don't just stop the conversation here, but that we take it to outside of these doors and use the tools that we learn. So thank you guys so much, and I'm just so grateful that for everyone that supported me. And the rain has stopped, I'm pretty sure, so everybody should have a safe drive home, and thank you again.